So, what we have here today is the Alpine A110 Legend. Welcome back to SG Carmart Reviews. Today we have the Alpine A110 Legend. It's not pronounced Legend, it's French, but I cannot speak French, so Legend it is.
It is pronounced as
Légende.
What is this? It's an Alpine. Have you ever heard of an Alpine? If you haven't, I don't really blame you. There are like 22, 23 of these on the road in Singapore. And considering there are like 600,000 cars on the road in Singapore, and the chances of you actually seeing one is something like 0.0003%. This is a French two-door, two-seat sports car. A little bit of history, it's actually based on an A110 from back in the 60s, right? Alpine used to make a sports car that actually was made for rallying and actually had quite a bit of success in rallying. So in 2017, they decided, well, Renault, who owns Alpine, decided to revive the brand, and then ta-da, we have new Alpine. The Alpine A110 Legend is priced from $258,000 without COE. The 1.8-litre turbocharged engine produces 248 brake horsepower and 320 Nm of torque. The 7-speed transmission brings the car from 0 to 100 km/h in 4.5 seconds. For more details on the Alpine A110 Legend or any other car, head on to sgcarmart.com to help you make a smart choice on your next car. So obviously this car was inspired by A110, and visually definitely it draws from the original car. The original car was really a beautiful small car. This new one, not quite as beautiful, I don't think. I think it's still a special looking car in the sense that it looks like nothing else on the road right now. You have these four light setup that definitely sort of draws from the original. I think it looks a little bit like a frog, you know, with this line here and like the eyes. It's got a bit of a frog-like look to it. But yeah, I think it's a interesting looking car, maybe not the prettiest car in the world. So on this Legend variant, we actually get this very interesting sort of two-tone 18-inch rims. And you also get some nice blue brake calipers. And one difference between this and the Pure that we've driven previously is that on this one, the brake discs are slightly smaller, but the rest of the car is basically the same. I also must say that I really do like this particular color. This is iridescent white, and it's white with like bluish, silverish specks inside the paintwork. And especially under like bright sun, you can see it sort of sparkle and shine, and it's really, really, really quite nice. So, moving on to the rear of the car. I actually do think that this is probably the car's best angle. I do like the single central tailpipe set into the rear diffuser, and just it's a simple, clean design, and I do like it. Boot space. Well, yeah, boot space. It's 100 liters, so it's not so much a boot, more like a big cubby hole. Trolley test. If this isn't enough space for you, actually, there is another boot. At the front of the car, we actually have another boot. Again, it's not very big. It's actually a little bit smaller than the one at the back. This one is 96 liters. But the benefit of this one is that it's slightly wider and slightly easier to put stuff in. You can put like 2 backpacks and a pair of shoes. Yes, it's not a lot of space, but honestly, in this car, space is at a premium, so any space is better than no space at all. You might be wondering though, where is the engine? Well, let's go find out. So, where is the engine? The engine is back here. This is a mid-engine car like how all proper sports cars should be. Yes, so a little bit more about the engine later, but let's talk about the interior. There are a couple of things I do like. I do like this steering wheel. It's nice and small and compact, not too thick, which is nice. It's also very simple. There's some buttons here for controlling your cruise control, and then more importantly, you have a sport button here. That's it. Great. Dashboard. We have a fully digital dashboard which you can actually control and change some settings using buttons on either of these stalks. Nothing too complicated, it's a very straightforward thing. The one interesting thing is if you hit the sport button, you actually get a slightly different look. And then if you press and hold for track, you get another different look. But again, nothing too spectacular or special, it's just fairly straightforward. A couple of things to note when it comes to controls. Volume control. If you look at the infotainment system, there aren't any volume controls here because the volume controls are here next to your gear shift pedals, which means that your passengers won't be able to adjust the volume of whatever music you're listening to. Not great, but again, it is what it is, right? So let's talk about the infotainment system. It's okay. It's quite an old looking system with very limited functionality. You don't get navigation, you don't get like CarPlay, you don't get anything fancy. It's very straightforward. Radio, Bluetooth connectivity, that's about it. The main thing that you do get is this like Alpine telemetrics, which you can see things like your acceleration, your turbo pressure, throttle, intake temperature, performance, lap timing, stuff like that. Great for if you're driving on a track, but in real everyday driving, yeah, probably won't be using this very much. You have some nicely machined controls here for some simple functions, start, stop, traction control, etc. And then aircon controls comes out of a Renault as far as I can see. Again, very simple. Okay, then we come to the center console. You might have noticed that you don't get a typical gear shifter. That's because you have these buttons here for drive, neutral, reverse. And you might be wondering, where is park? Well, actually park, you press and hold neutral and you get park. You get a red circle and you can see that. Windows, your engine start stop, your parking brake, and your cruise control and limiter. That's about it. So yes, not a very complicated interior. This is a sort of fairly straightforward minimalist car after all. One thing I do need to mention is that this Legend variant actually gets these interesting leather seats. So in the Pure that we drove previously, that one came with this Sebelt sport bucket seats, which were fantastic, right? They were super light, super sporty, basically just like a race car. But I understand not everyone wants to be sitting in a race car seat every day when you're just driving to work and stuff like that, right? So that's why actually Alpine has launched this particular variant. This one comes with, these are still Sebelt sport seats, but they are adjustable, and that makes a lot of difference. Obviously you can adjust front and back, just like with the other one, but with this one you can actually also adjust the height for shorter drivers, and more importantly you can adjust the backrest. This is my normal driving position, which is admittedly very upright, very straight. I like it. Not everyone does. You can do this. So what you end up with is a much more like relaxed driving position, you know, more in the vein of like a GT or cruiser, you know, something a little bit more comfortable, not so aggressive. And I will admit it makes a lot of difference. You know, you have a lot more flexibility when it comes to how you want to sit and how you like your driving position to be as far as how you use the car. Couple of things to note. This sound system is a Focal sound system. It's actually been specially made for this car. It uses like special lightweight components just to keep things light. I mean, with this car, it's all about keeping weight down. And in this particular Legend variant, you also get some carbon fiber bits here. As far as materials go, it's actually not too bad. You get quite a lot of nice leather. It's not the most plush leather, you know, but it looks good. It feels actually quite comfortable. It doesn't feel like a super like stripped back, raw sort of track day car. You know, it's still a proper car you can drive every day, and I do like that about this car. You know, it's not super comfortable, but it's comfortable enough, and I think that makes a big difference. So obviously with a car like this, it's very easy to talk about, you know, for whatever you're paying for, you don't get a lot of equipment, stuff like that. But honestly, that's not really that important. You know, a car like this is all about the drive. It's all about how it feels on the road, how it performs on the road. So of course that means we need to go for a drive, so let's go. So, we're now out on the road with the Alpine, and the first thing that I notice is that it's really quite comfortable for a car that looks like it wouldn't be, right? It's a two-door, two-seat, small coupe, and generally when you see cars like that, you tend to think, yeah, they're going to be quite painful to drive, low to the ground. But this isn't, this is actually quite comfortable. The suspension is firm but forgiving, there's quite a bit of travel in the suspension. So over big bumps, the car actually does a good job of soaking it up very well. And honestly, it's not uncomfortable at all. I can see myself driving this for 200, 300 kilometers and it won't be uncomfortable. I think that's really the beauty of this car, right? It's not like a track weapon. It's not for you to chase lap times. I mean, you could do that, but it's not made for that. It's made for just driving normally. It's made for covering long distances obviously in style, but also in relative comfort. And that's a good thing. So as far as performance goes, okay, the numbers may not seem that incredible. They might actually be a little bit underwhelming on paper. Behind me I have a 1.8 litre 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. Yeah, it doesn't sound that fantastic, right? It makes 248 brake horsepower and 320 Newton meters of torque. Again, not crazy figures, that's what you get in like a modern hot hatch like a GTI or something like that. So on paper, it doesn't seem that fantastic. But there is a number you need to keep in mind, which is the car's weight. At 1,123 kilograms, it's actually really light. Any modern sedan hatchback is 1.3, 1.4 tons. This is lighter than that. And because of that, acceleration is very brisk. 0 to 100 is 4.5 seconds, which is really quick. And more importantly, I'm doing 60, 65 on the highway. I put my foot down, 30% throttle. I'm at 90. So you don't actually have to work the car very hard because there's not a lot of weight for the car to overcome. And it's this lightness that really comes to define how this car feels. I really like that it's light, it's agile, it's very responsive to what you're doing. The steering is sharp, is responsive, and little bits of movement, and you can feel where the car is going. And just at normal driving speeds, I'm doing 50, and it feels responsive, it feels agile, it just feels really, really, really nice. And that's what I really enjoy about this car. You don't have to drive it fast to feel like you're enjoying the car. So, the Alpine A110 Legend. Will buy, won't buy, or go try? To me, this is a definite go try. Why do I say that? Well, this car is not cheap. It's with COE about 310, 320,000 depending on when you're getting the COE. And fine, I'll admit that's a lot of money for a car that doesn't have sat-nav, has a tiny boot, has space for one other passenger. I guess there's not a lot of car that comes with your money, right? And for some people, that's a problem. And I understand that. This is definitely quite a niche product. There's not many people will sort of understand what it is. And for that reason, you do have to go and try this car. And I think this car is special, right? It manages to capture a certain joy of driving that you don't find nowadays. It's not to say that this isn't a modern car. It is a modern car, it is thoroughly modern. But with nowadays cars, busy chasing like the latest gimmicks and more power and just stiffer suspension, I like this. I like this because it doesn't do that. It's a little bit old school in that sense. It focuses more on the simple joys of driving at 70 km per hour and enjoying it and feeling connected to the car. But if you get a chance, you really do need to get behind the wheel of this car and experience what it's like. On paper, I don't think the numbers and the statistics do it any justice because that cannot capture what it feels like when you're sitting here behind the wheel. That doesn't capture what the car does on the road, and that is something that you have to try for yourself. So yes, please go and drive this car if you can. If you get the chance, you really must experience what it's like. It is, I would say, like almost like nothing else in the market right now. So, that's a review of the new Alpine. What do you think? Is it a will buy, won't buy, or go try? Let us know in the comment section below, and also let us know if there are any other cars that you want to see us reviewing. Please also like and subscribe to see more of our videos. In the meantime, stay safe, and I'll catch you in the next video. Bye!